I really do think we should just watch the movie. It does a good job, better than I do. Anyway, good morning. Welcome to the garden. I'm glad you're here today. This whole idea for this message came up from out of a message team meeting a while back when someone asked the question, why do things happen when they do, and why is that? And she went on to explain where she was in her life. She said that she was at a time of transition and change, and she was trying to figure out what was next. And she thought about a book that she knew she owned, but she also was aware she hadn't read, and she thought it might be helpful, but she didn't know exactly where to find it. Well, lo and behold, just about then, she found the book under her bed. And it turned out to be exactly what she was looking for and what she really needed. And then her question to the rest of us was this: was that God or something else? And then on the other hand, I've had some conversations over the last several months with folks who seem to believe that God has this exact plan for each of our lives, that it's already orchestrated, it's already laid out, we have no control, no choice in what to make, that it's just as it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, those are just a couple of the various ways in which people view or at least wonder why things happen the way they do in our lives and when they do in our lives, and try to figure out what to do with that. Now, that's what we're going to explore a little bit today. I don't have all the answers, I just have some thoughts, and so I would invite your thoughts as well. And when we're talking about this God having a definite plan, I guess I'd have to admit to you that that's something I kind of push against. I first heard about that years ago, and it was this whole theory of predestination. And that originated with Augustine and then came up also with Calvin. And that was the sense in the theological vein that God chooses to save certain people and not others. And I don't like that terribly well. I don't like that thought. It doesn't come in sync with who God is and what God is like for me. And I really don't think that if that's how capricious God is, that I really want anything to do with that kind of a being. And so I've always kind of had an adverse reaction to that kind of thing. And the more I've thought about it, the more I realize how out of sync it is with my understanding of God and where God is in our life. I do not see God as this ultimate micromanager that handles every single detail of our lives. That would totally violate free will, which I believe is a gift that God has given us. The freedom to choose, to go this direction or that direction, to turn this way or to turn that way. And so, that just doesn't fit for me, for whatever reason. But on the other hand, is everything totally random and chaotic? Is there no rhyme or reason to what happens to us in life? Are we like one of those balls in an old pinball machine that just goes zigzagging around everywhere without any kind of purpose or direction or sense of what's right or wrong? And what about this fate thing, or what others refer to as luck? Is it just a matter of being in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time? And yet people who say that often will hear something that goes wrong, something that is not the way people would like it. And then usually those same folks are quick to blame God for this kind of thing, as though God is in control when it's really all random. So we just have a lot of conflict, it seems to me, around this whole idea. Well, for whatever it's worth, I'll share with you where I come down today. You may be someplace entirely different, and that's okay, because the reality is not one of us knows with 100% certainty what is or what is not what this is all about. We just have to try to figure out what works for us, what kind of makes some sense both here and in our heart and in our souls. So we just have to consider, each of us, where we want to come down on this. But where I am is this. I believe that God is good and that God is love, and God wants only what is good and loving for each of us in our lives. But life is life. Things happen in the course of life. People get sick. Accidents occur. I don't think God causes that to happen. I think it just happens in the process of living our lives. Sometimes maybe by our own actions, sometimes by the actions of others. Sometimes there's no cause that we can identify. And the reality is that even in the midst of the worst things that can happen, I believe God is present, not causing those things, but is trying to redeem whatever's happened and help us deal with whatever has come to us in life. That's why I really take great comfort in the first Bible passage we have for this morning. This is out of Paul's writing to the people in the church in Rome. And our version reads like this: "We know that all things work for good with those who love God, those who are called according to God's purpose." I think that what that's saying to us is that God is always at work in our world, trying to bring good, trying to bring that which is loving to us. And it is a matter of realizing that things are just going to occur. They're just going to happen. And we need to realize that where we find help in dealing with those, where we find strength, although it may come in some surprising ways, is often ways in which God is working to get through to us, to help us cope, to help us realize that what is happening can ultimately have something positive, something good, something hopeful, maybe deeply embedded in it, but embedded in it there somewhere. But given all that, then what do we do? How are we to live our lives? Well, I think that's where the second Bible passage at least speaks to me. It's out of from the writer of Matthew's Gospel, and this is from the Message, and it reads like this: "Steep your life in God reality, God initiative, God provisions. Don't worry about missing out. You'll find all your everyday human concerns will be met." Well, what that's saying to me is, what it really speaks to me is that we need to try to, I guess, partner with God, align ourselves with God, and try to go in the direction of what is good and what is right and what is loving and what is just in this world. I really like that part that says that steep your life in God reality, God initiative, God provisions. To be a person who thinks loving thoughts, who works in loving ways. Like Doug just described, I knew Doug's mother-in-law, Rose Allen. And she was a delightful woman who never saw a stranger and who always brought good into every situation. And things happen when we do that, when we are aligned with what God's desire is for us. Now, I don't really care what you call it, whether it's serendipity or synchronicity or coincidence, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter to me at all. I think it's just an awareness we have out that there's something out there. It may be being in rhythm with the universe and in timing with the universe. That it's there. Something happens that causes things to occur at certain times, maybe because we're looking for them, maybe because we're more ready for them at that time, maybe just because it's right. Things happen. Well, I've seen some instances where there are examples, at least I've taken, that are in some surprising places of the importance of our being really open and interactive with the world and with other people. Yahoo is one of those places. Now, what surprises me about Yahoo is that they have decided that their workers can no longer work from home. They want everyone to be closer together, because what they have discovered is that some of the creativity does not happen when people are out there doing their solo act. That what really works is when people bump into one another in the hallway, or have conversations in the lunchroom, or in one way or another attend an impromptu team meeting. That's when things happen. It is getting out in the world and being involved in the world and being open to what might come. Surprisingly enough, Google is also in that place. They're building a new campus, main campus there. And they've decided that nobody will be more than 2 minutes away from anybody else in that workplace. And they do that so that what they call casual collision of the workforce will happen. What that means, that casual collision, is that some surprising things, some unexpected things will pop up, some spontaneous things will happen. And we are there to be aware of that, to be open to that, to see what's happening. Well, I would bet that you and I would all admit that we've had things like that happen in our lives. You know, when do we find that book that is just exactly what we need to find? What about something we've been thinking about, and then we have a conversation with a friend, and that friend is thinking about the very same thing? Sometimes I'll talk to 2 or 3 or 4 people over a period of days sometimes, and they'll be talking about the same kind of thing, and I sometimes get one of those do-do-do-do kind of feelings. You know what that is? Where, wait a minute, this just kind of all came together. It's kind of that mystery of things popping together. But it is a matter of, I think, not worrying about what we call it, whether it's God, whether it's coincidence, whatever. In fact, Nancy Long said that. Whether we name divine presence synchronicity, serendipity, or graced moment matters little. Well, as for me, I guess I choose to attach the God thing to it in one way or another, and that somehow speaks to me at least. It may not to you. You've also probably heard the phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I don't know if I was talking to someone after last service who found that really kind of important thinking for him. And really what that says is that when the student is ready is when we're open, when we're willing to look at different possibilities, look at different things. And so it's a matter of our being open to whatever comes to us, and then to interpret it, to try to understand what it might be saying to us, what it might mean for us. Lawrence Block put it like this: serendipity. Look for something, find something else, and realize what you found is more suited to your needs than what you thought you were looking for. Well, I've certainly had that happen, and maybe you have too. However, I have to say to you that if we are closed to any other possibilities, none of this will occur. We have to be on the lookout. We do have to be open. We have to be ready in whatever way we possibly can. Jose Manuel Barossa said, what people call serendipity sometimes is just having your eyes open. And that may be the greatest gift we can do, having our eyes open. Now, that's a difficult thing for many of us. We don't do very well living in the present. We can't be back there. We can't be out here. We've got to be in the moment. And we have to have our eyes open and our ears open and really be aware of what's coming toward us. And also, there's another piece of that, and that means we have to do our homework. We have to be prepared. If we're thinking about a certain thing, then we need to kind of move down that road and be ready for what might come to us along that line. Katori Hall said, serendipity always rewards the prepared. Let me give you an example of what I mean. It doesn't always work this way, but sometimes it's really cool when it does. Here at the Garden, we try to plan our Sunday themes 3 to 6 months out ahead. And we try to be familiar with what those upcoming themes will be. And then in the process of maybe preparing for something for the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll come upon a quote, or maybe there'll be a song or a video or a poem that appears that we can think, whoa, that might fit down here. Now, sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. But we wouldn't even be aware of it if we hadn't tried to prepare ourselves and think out that way. I think the same thing is true for us. We have to kind of organize our thinking and our being, if we will, and kind of be ready, be prepared, and be open, and look and see what's happening and interact with life as it comes to us. Well, I don't know what you call it. Coincidence, serendipity, synchronicity, anything else, it doesn't really matter. But I've decided that I want to adopt a term that a friend of mine created a number of years ago now. He called this Godcidence. That it's not really a coincidence that whatever occurs, God is in it. We just have to look to see where that is. Well, for whatever it's worth, that's where I am. How about you?